Welcome back, listeners, to HTO. I know it's been a summer of Euros and international football, but that means we just had withdrawal symptoms from doing a bit of an Arsenal pod. We can't help it. We do talk about sport and football across the board, but we can't escape the fact that Andrew and I are big Arsenal fans. So what better way to bring us back to our home body than to have Charles Watts, Arsenal correspondent, Arsenal super fan, basically all-round top bloke, join us on the pod. Andrew, you've got to be looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's about time we hashed out an Arsenal chat, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tried to keep the ratio down, but we've waited a while, so I think we deserve one.
Absolutely. Charles, how are you? Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm very well, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to this one.
Good stuff. Right, we're going to treat you. I say treat you. We're basically going to just delve into nostalgia and ahead of the new season, talk about an Emirates Arsenal 11. Now, there's no point just doing an Arsenal 11 because they'll all be good players. So we had to make sure it's an Emirates 11, and there might be a bit of debate then. So it makes it a bit more difficult, doesn't it, gents?
Yeah, it's not the easiest, is it? I think quite a few players will probably pick themselves, I would say, but I was thinking about this a while back, thinking like, goalkeepers, God, that's a tough one. There's quite a few positions that aren't exactly the easiest. It's not like we've got the Henrys and the Bergkamps and the Vieiras to choose from in this one.
Absolutely, and just to clarify, obviously, namesake there, Thierry, if people like that who may have played at the Emirates, but equally would have played their predominant Arsenal career at Highbury, we are excluding them for obvious reasons. Wouldn't be fair. But yeah, so Emirates 11, and you're right, goalkeeper. We're going to start there because that's where you start. But that's not an easy pick, is it, Andrew?
It isn't really. I mean, I've got two names in the mix that I'm sure we'll probably be mulling over, which is Cech and Szczesny. But I was looking at someone like Fabianski, who picked up some FA Cup winners' medals as well. And I think Cech wasn't playing the day that Ospina was in goal against Chelsea. So yeah, a bit of a strange one, this one. Do you go for the sort of illustrious Cech with all the trophies and medals and clean sheet records and stuff, or do you go for Szczesny, who has gone on to have a really good spell at Juve and was full of talent at Arsenal, but seemed to frustrate, didn't he, Charles?
He did, in a way. I mean, I really like Szczesny, and I didn't want them to sell him when they did. He obviously fell out with Arsene Wenger. There was the smoking incident at Southampton, sort of killed him, really. That was the end of that. I think talent-wise, you could always see that Szczesny was a top-quality goalkeeper. The sort of character he had, the charisma, the way he carried himself, you could see there was something pretty special about Szczesny. And I'm not surprised he's gone on to have this career that he's had now. It's unfortunate it really just didn't work out at Arsenal. They kind of fell away after that promising start. Fabianski, I'm not having him as... I don't think he can be in there. I think he's certainly gone on to do good things at West Ham, but I'm not sure at Arsenal he did. I think my overriding memory of Fabianski would always be just after Rambo had made it 3-2 against Hull in the cup final after all those years of waiting for a trophy. And then Fabianski goes legging it out.
Coming out, yeah.
To the right side, gets skipped round, and I can't even remember who it was who had the shot. And I was at Wembley at the other end and just see it, and I couldn't tell from the angle I was at if it was going in or not. Just the absolute horror of that moment unfolded in front of my eyes. It will always be what I remember.
It's funny, isn't it, how moments just stick out and just sort of not tar your memories of a player, but just annoy you. And Andrew will know the one I'm about to say about our current boss. But memory sticks out for me when we were chasing and we needed a 2-0 victory against Bayern. And we had the 1-0, and he or a 2-0. We need 2 goals, and he had the one, and he just did this most simple foul in the corner flag when there's nothing, and it just to kill time. And I was just like, it just really annoyed me at the time. And it's the same with that Fabianski. I mean, like,
still annoying you, isn't it?
It still annoys me. What are you doing? No, I'm probably leaning towards Szczesny if we're just going for the best 11 players. I think we had a very talented keeper there. We didn't see Cech. Obviously, the Chelsea Cech of the early Mourinho first reign, we didn't see that Cech at Arsenal. And yeah, I mean, I remember Szczesny when he broke both his arms, and he was a friend of the pod who's come on a couple of times, Bob Wilson, and I remember him saying such great things about this young Arsenal keeper coming through, and he'd heard good things at the club. And Szczesny obviously broke both arms in that training ground incident, but I was still looking out for him, and he did have so much talent. But smoking in the showers aside,
I just can't forget Szczesny against Birmingham, though.
No.
I'd have to go for Czech, I think.
I think I'd probably just about go for Czech on it.
Fine. I can be overruled. It's 2-2. That's the beauty of having 3. We're always going to have a decision here because unless we're all going for someone different, but then we'll have to cede ground. Okay, so Czech
won the Golden Gloves while he was at Arsenal, didn't he? That one season.
Yeah,
which is very impressive in the era that we were in. So
you don't want him in a penalty shootout, though, do you?
No,
he had that record, didn't he? Did he save one eventually? Did he save one at the end, didn't he? Towards the end.
I think the only goalkeeper who's got a worse record than that's Leno.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say, Leno. I don't know where you personally sit. I think Andrew and I were sort of in the Emmy camp of which goalkeeper to keep. I don't think there was much in it. I don't think there was as much in it as people were claiming. And I certainly wouldn't look at him at the current squad and say that's a weak link there we have. But equally, yeah, I probably would have gone Martinez. But I think it's
they should have kept Martinez. I think they were in a situation though they had to sell one, and I think it was a lot easier to sell Martinez than it was to sell Leno. And I think that was more the.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if they'd received a good offer for either at the time, they would have just got one out the door. I think you can't have if there's a keeper that's going to demand 20 million odd plus on the bench, you're going to sell one, aren't you? And there's especially where we are. Okay, so Czech. There we go.
Quite a quick one at right back, Tom.
You think so? Yeah, probably. It will be for Andrew. Andrew's a big
absolutely one word answer for me.
Yeah, Andrew's a big Bakary Sagna fan, aren't you?
Yeah, well, and also I met him at Cockfoster's tube station, but that tips it for me. No, I mean, what a fantastic right back, incredibly solid. People forget how good of a crosser he was actually, Sagna. And yeah, I think he went on to play for City, which says a lot, really. And I've just never, as you know, Tom, just never really bought the Bellerin. I mean, bad injuries, to be fair. Bad injuries that he's had, but no, easy one.
Yeah, I think we probably are in agreement, aren't we? I think we probably have to be. Such a solid right
not
back.
Not even close to Sagna. He's 100% right back.
I do wonder sort of like how a Sagna would look now with the Trent Robertson need for these fullbacks to essentially be wing backs, to essentially be throwing 40 crosses a game, shots from distance and all that kind of thing, might come up shy in the modern game. But I think that's the modern game. It's only been gone for 4 years. Are we doing centre backs next or left back? Where do we think?
Yeah, across the line, centre backs.
Centre backs. Do we go for? Look, there's been. What we're going to do here is we're probably going to agree on the two quite quickly, but we're going to probably caveat that with that we're not got great players to pick from, really, have we?
So who are the two? Mine, Koscielny and Mertesacker.
Yeah, and I'm going for those two, but it's hard work going for those two.
Yeah, I think so. When I was initially putting this together, I thought, yeah, okay, like those two together, they complement each other quite well. Koscielny is probably one of my most underrated Arsenal players of my lifetime, for sure. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He carried that defence for large spells, Koscielny. And Mertesacker was that very, very, great leader when he came in. We needed him, obviously. Lucky enough to have a chat with him on the pod a few weeks ago. And I'd say the other names that I'd throw in the mix are Vermaelen, who it wasn't a massively long spell, but for a season and a half or so, Vermaelen was very impressive.
When he arrived,
he
that
goal
scoring centre back, scoring 4 or 5 goals that first year at the club, I think we'd all thought we found a player. Look, I've never been as big a fan of Laurent Koscielny as you were, Andrew. I think he did hold us together, but because he was holding such poor players together, I don't know how good he was unto himself.
I wonder what you thought, Charles, on William Gallas, dare I say?
Oh no! Got better. Can barely say anything good about William Gallas, I'm afraid. A horrible moment in Arsenal's history, that signing from Chelsea, giving him the captaincy. I hated it with a passion. I think Koscielny and Mertesacker were great together, brilliant partnership. I think Koscielny, like you said, was fabulous at a time. One drawback with Koscielny, he was prone to the big clanger. You think back to Birmingham, the final, you think back to even the Atletico Madrid semi-final, things like that, the own goals that he scored, he was prone to that. But overall, I think he's one of the the best signings of the Emirates era in terms of value for money that Arsenal made, and was very, very good. I like Vermaelen. That first season with Vermaelen was, like you say, was great. Some good moments of Marlon. You think of that last-minute goal against Newcastle and the celebrations that night when that went in. But for me, yeah, Mertesacker. And Mertesacker's performance in that FA Cup final against Chelsea was just so good. Such a perfect way to sort of end that little era. That yeah, I think that for me, it's got to be those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a performance. What was really nice when we spoke to Per was how honest he was about how nervous he was before that final. And he was basically recognised that he wasn't ready. He wasn't of the standard anymore, to be honest with you, to be doing it. And he was very, very human of him to just recognise that, and yet came out there and gave that performance they gave. I do feel like the back five will be in agreement out of lack of quality options, potentially minus Sanya, but nonetheless. So we're penciling Sanya, Mertkos, left back. Charles, let's kick off with you.
Nacho.
Yeah.
Got to be Nacho. Got to be Nacho. I think he was great. Another just that he's cut out there with Koscielny, I think, in terms of value for money for signings. Really, really solid. Massively underrated outside of Arsenal. Popped up with goals towards the end of his stay as well. Just a top quality professional, top quality defender. He absolutely. I'm not sure what their options were. There's Gibbo. But other than that, what other sort of options really are there left back? Certainly not going to pick Andre Santos, are we?
Skying it against Hull. No. I mean, you pick him just for his goal against Chelsea in the win. Pick Santos just for his goal against Chelsea.
I think we all know that the elephant in the room here is Kieran Tierney, isn't it? That hopefully will go on to be the best left back that we've had since we've moved to the Emirates. It's way too early, and he needs to just stay off the injury table, doesn't he? Really? Yeah, I think. As we move into midfield now, and I think it's just. I think this is a massive headache for me, just purely based on the fact that we've known for 10, 15 years now at the Emirates, or was it coming up to sort of 16 years or so, that it's always been labelled, isn't it, at us, that we've got the same type of player in these areas. And that's what we struggled with a lot during those sorts of 2010 to 2015 era, where we were flooded with that technically gifted footballer. You Hleb, Brzicki, Fabregas, Nasri, Arshavin, like these are all lovely footballers. It's just how do we put a team together now of a system and trying to fit the best ones into it.
So,
really.
So what system, first of all, what system are you both playing? Are you 3-3-1, sort of a traditional 4-4-2? Like how are you making your team up?
I think in my mind, I'd sort of 4-2-3-1. But it's hard, like you say, because all these players, they interchanged in that sort of Wenger era. They didn't really have strict positions. When you're looking at the Nasris, the Sesks, and Riziki, all those sort of players, they're all the same sort of player playing in any sort of role and just rotating around. They were so fluid, those midfield. It's hard to actually nail them down to a position.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like if you were playing this team, I'd worry, if you were going somewhere like to a City or a United or a Chelsea, and with this system, I wouldn't go for this, but I would play Fabregas and Cazorla. I'm laughing as I say it. Like, this would be great to watch, but like you won't want to get counter-attacked on. Just purely based on the fact that if we're leaving Gilberto out of this, which I think we need to, because he was more, I'd say. Yes,
he's not an Emirates player.
Yeah, and Alex Song had a couple of really good seasons. Like he came on leaps and bounds, Alex Song. And in recent years, we've lacked in that area. As obviously, Jack has always divided opinion. Partey hopefully will be a man, but Coquelin was in and out of the side a little bit like Song, really. So I was just going for our best central midfield players, not necessarily looking for a holding one in the end. So I'd be playing Fabregas and Cazorla and Ramsey in a 3. I was going to sort of maybe go for that.
See, I have gone as my 2. I've gone a sort of 4-2-3-1, and my 2 is Ramsey and Santi as my 2. And then I've got Fabregas ahead in the sort of number 10 role.
Yeah, I had those 3 in the midfield as well. I think, look, let's start with, for me, when I looked at the front 6, you started with Cesc. I think he's the best player we've had at the Emirates still. Since we moved there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The player I looked forward to watching the most. It was special watching him. He was in the side, and I had, like I said, the 3 in the middle. I also had Santi and Ramsey. I was a huge Aaron Ramsey fan. Andrew less so through the years. But for me, Aaron Ramsey, there's also always that debate about, is he an Arsenal legend? And it depends what era you grew up in, because, for us, probably not, just because we saw the riches that went before. For younger fans, if Arsenal have won 14 FA Cups. I think I looked up the stat that we've won 14 FA Cups, and of those, there's only 8 of those have had a winner, i.e. have we won the FA Cup by 1 goal. And he scored 2 of them. In the history of our football club, to only have 8 FA Cup that you have winners, and you score 2, you deserve it for me. You deserve it. So, yeah, I went for Santi and Ramsey as well.
I didn't think it would be that plain sailing, really. I mean, any other names, Charles? Really, I mean, someone like a Jack Wilshere in terms of talent, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, I think Jack deserves an honourable mention. I think certainly when he came through, it was so exciting to watch and such a talent. And we'll all remember that Barcelona game and other games as well, not just that one around that sort of period. But I think Cesc was so good. It was remarkable, really. And I've got to kind of phase out the way he left, because that still bugs me and will always bug me. But in terms of what a talent he was on the pitch, he was just spectacular, so good. And Ramsey, for me, I mean, I love Aaron Ramsey, absolutely love him. And that goal against Hull was one of my favourite Arsenal goals. I've been a season ticket holder since 1991, going since 89, and I've seen all those glorious league wins, everything, but still that Ramsey goal was in my top 3 Arsenal moments at Wembley. It was such an emotional day and raining day, and I will love him. He could have stunk the place out for his whole career, but that goal I'd love him forever for. And yeah, he's top player. His record speaks for itself as well. His goals, assists. If he hadn't had the injuries that he had, he would have been an absolute legend, I think, at Arsenal.
So I guess the obvious conclusion from I might be assuming something here, but we're all leaving out Ozil.
Yeah, it's not even close to it for me in terms of if you're choosing between Cesc and Ozil, which I am, because I'm going 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't even.
Yeah, see, my side of dilemma with mine, Charles, was obviously I'm going for a 3 in there, like almost just like a rotate. They can sort of just play where they want to in there, really. And I just think that we just have to touch on it. I just think because an incredibly talented footballer who divides opinion more than anyone, I think. And for 2 years, I'd say was incredibly effective in that side. But yeah, I think he just never. I think the way he played never fulfilled his ability at Arsenal. But then it's a tricky one, because we were a club that weren't Real Madrid, were we? And I think that was the not feeding Benzema and Ronaldo and feeding Walcott and Giroud was a different story. But yeah, interesting, we've all left him out. I just think he obviously needs a mention for me.
I really enjoyed watching him as a play, and I liked him as a player. I thought he did very well at Arsenal, and took a lot of flack that he probably didn't deserve. But like I said, it's a straight shootout for me between him and Cesc, and there's only one winner there for me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, look, I have to agree. He's a very special footballer, Ozil, very, very special footballer. But that's not really enough to make it into the best sides often. Just being very, very gifted. And it's just, for me, Cesc, I've only cared when 2 players have left Arsenal. Like being gutted. Nothing will ever compete with Ashley Cole going. For me personally, that was a gutter. To see an Arsenal boy through the ranks go to a London rival, personally. But yeah, Cesc for me. Who's wide? Who's up top?
Well, in mine again, because we're doing a slightly different formation. My left-sided player is Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah, definitely
on the left. I think not really
Agreed.
anything else.
Yeah, I would say the same. In terms, where does he rank, Charles, in terms of Emirates players for us?
I think he's right. I think probably in terms of the best players I've seen at the Emirates, I think only Cesc beats him.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He was an absolute monster when he was at Arsenal. We saw the best years of him as well, which was a bit of a privilege. When I think we all thought when he moved on, we're going to have to see him light it up elsewhere. And the fact he hasn't, it's quite nice. And the fact that we saw his best years, and he was an absolute animal, wasn't he? He was just unplayable at times when he was at Arsenal. And it's a real shame that we didn't win the title when he was there, because he was that good. He could have almost led us to the, single-handedly led us to a title.
I mean, he's that good that when I was looking, I was putting a little shortlist together of kind of that area of the pitch. If we're going for like the 3 behind the striker or 2 wide men, there's a really long list in my eyes of like really talented footballers. Like, I mean, Nasri, I thought Nasri was fantastic. I don't particularly agree with how his career has panned out and what he stood for. But ability-wise, for me, I thought he was underrated, Nasri. That game against Fulham, I remember at home, it was just disgusting.
Man United at home.
Yeah, Man United at home. I think it was home to Porto. I think he did that mazy run. But for Sanchez to be getting ahead of people like Nasri and Arshavin as well, who was incredible while he was here. I mean, it just speaks volumes doesn't it, Tom? Really, of Alexis's ability, really.
Yeah, signing Arshavin in the snow has got to be up there as a nice transfer memory. But the reality is, Alexis on form was scary to watch and fun to watch as well. You've got to say that as well. You go to football to be entertained, and he loved the moment, didn't he? He was an entertainer, and I think, although not long Arsenal career and didn't probably win as much as we could have done, an entertainer and a brilliant player.
Absolutely, 100%. He was absolutely brilliant. He was the best player in England, I think, while he was here. He was that good. And and
actually stayed at Arsenal longer than anywhere else in his career, if you look. So we know he's, it didn't feel like a long Arsenal tenure, but actually, yeah, pretty long for him.
You think back to that game at West Ham when he scored that hat trick was just one of the best individual performances you'll see from a footballer. He was just literally, they could not get anywhere near him. He was that good. He was just on another level. Well, that's what he was like for the majority of his time here.
Yeah, and there were shades of Omri about Alexis, as in terms of the mindset and the attitude. I remember that last minute penalty against Burnley, for example, where there's not that many players that I can think of in my lifetime, which is sort of, looking back 30 years or so now, that in a moment like that could produce that type of mindset, really, to be able to do that. And Alexis and Omri, I can't think of anyone else that would be able to have that cheek, but confidence to pull it off, really. I mean, Van Persie was a different type of player. We'll talk about in a minute, but he had that about him, Alexis, really, that star quality,
Also had that sort of, when you away at West Ham, almost made me feel of Bale away at West Ham as well when he carried Spurs, for a season there, Alexis, give him the ball because he might just throw it in from 30 yards. He was that special. So who else have we gone for then behind, or is it, it's not a 2 up front, is it?
Well, I suppose, are we all in agreement it's Bentner from the right wing?
Absolutely. Number 52, we'll jot him down.
See, I've gone, and I'm sure you guys aren't going to agree with some, but I've actually gone for Walcott on my right-hand side.
I thought you might. I thought you were going to do that.
I got a lot of time for Theo Walcott, and I think he did well. He scored over 100 goals while he was here. Not many players have done that in the history of Arsenal, let alone from a wide position. And he scored big goals as well. He was a big goal player. Scored an FA Cup final. Scored in lots of big games against the big teams as well. And I think again he's got a lot of unfair flack in his career because he hasn't perhaps gone on to be this Michael Owen that everyone thought he was going to be perhaps when he got into that World Cup squad in 2006. But he's still gone on and had an incredible career. Scored loads of goals. Scored, like I said, over 100 for Arsenal. And I think for me he's got to get in.
He was mine actually. He's on my right side. Like you say, 100 goals plus for Arsenal. Maligned for what he wasn't rather than what he was, which was a brilliant player. That run against Liverpool in the Champions League, I thought we had a very special player. I remember when squaring it to Adebayor, I've not been as excited about football for a long time. And maybe that was to his detriment because, as I said, he still had a great career and a great Arsenal career. I just think we obviously signed him when we had the squad still of your Henrys, things like that, and he came into that level of dressing room. And he wasn't that good a player, but it doesn't mean he wasn't a very, very good player. I just think the expectations were too high. But he had a great career, decade at Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, I know I was.
Gets a slot.
Yeah, I mean, I was clearly jesting about Bentner earlier, but not to go off track too much here, but that for me was the most bizarre positional choice that Wenger made, I think, in what 20 years at the club or so. He just persisted with it for ages. I just never understood what is he doing here. But anyway, right. Yeah, I would, yeah, actually, you know what, guys, you've convinced me. I didn't have Walcott. And
Well, you've been
and
outvoted
actually,
anyway, mate. You've been
yeah, no,
outvoted.
of course
So
I'm not gonna, it's gonna be 3-0 actually, because
did you have
I actually last sort of minute.com
Rosicky?
players like Ramsey and Walcott, on reflection, it's about what you've achieved at the club in that period, isn't it? And I know, like, for me, there's players that are far better technically than Walcott ever has been. Kleb, Rosicky, Arshavin, Nasri. These are all better footballers. But Walcott, like, the goals that he scored, the moments that he had, and actually, what, he's a good egg as well, Walcott.
Who were you thinking though? Were you thinking Rosicky?
No, I mean, we spoke just off air, Tom, before, and I was kind of coming to this quite open-minded, and now I'm realising that I was going to have Van Persie and Aubameyang in my team, but I can't now. So I was going to go for 2 up front with those 2.
Interesting.
But now it's panned out that I can't. But I'm okay with that, actually. So
Yeah. I love your little shout there for Kleb, because Andrew and I have a bit of a fetish for Kleb Charles. We thought he was I loved watching him play. Just never hit the heights, but
he was great. He was infuriating at times, but he was great to watch. And that
was glued to his feet.
That team was my favourite Arsenal team of the Emirates era by an absolute mile. And they should have won the title. Deserved it. It all fell apart after St Andrews, but that team was so good. The movement, the goals, the style of play, some of the performances that season, they deserved the title, and still convinced to this day had that penalty not been given in the last minute, and it wasn't even a penalty. St Andrews, that title, it wasn't even the leg break. Like, I was speaking to Bakary Sagna actually about this, and I get his thoughts on that game. And he said it himself, and Gary Lewin said it as well. They both didn't feel like it was a leg break that stopped winning the title. It was the penalty decision. Had they won that game, had it 2-1, they would have won it. But it was the negative of what happened after, conceded that goal, and then what happened after. That's what screwed up that season. It wasn't the actual trauma of the Eduardo leg break.
I still think Gal Clichy comes under as one of the most unlucky Arsenal players I've ever seen, because that was never a pen, and also the one in Villarreal was never a penalty. I mean, Jose Maria, I think it was, he just falls over. Clichy barely touches him, But
Kleb penalties. What about the one he didn't get against Liverpool in the Champions League when he's hauled to the floor? And we go through in that match, and Champions League semi-final, never know.
Well, actually, Alexander Kleb would be like the modern day, like the kind of goal involvement king, wouldn't he? Like the pre-assist king.
Pre-assist, absolute king.
He hates me though, Alexander Kleb. He doesn't like me. We played Borisov the other season.
Yeah.
And they beat us 1-0. I was over in Minsk for it, or Borisov, and we were coming back to Minsk airport the next morning, and the whole Borisov team were at Burger King with us that morning. Like, literally, this was 6 a.m. after the game, and they were at Burger King flying to London, and they were eating burgers like waffles. And I took a photo of Kleb and a couple other people.
I remember seeing this online,
and I was like, this just rubs it in, leads into this lot, and then seeing them celebrate by walking down Burger King at 6 a.m. And by the time I got back to the airport to England, the whole thing had exploded, and the Belarusian media were running stories on it and interviewing Alex Kleb, and he said the quote was, "The journalist that took the picture lacked brains." I'm not on his Christmas card list.
No, yeah, I bet not. Yeah, I mean, I shout out to that 07-08 team though. I don't. Slavia Prague aren't, they're not the elite of European football, but we beat them 7-0 that season, and that football for me was, I don't think we've recaptured that type of football, to be honest.
No, it was the last time when we'd enjoyed top football for a while, and that was a different type, it was possession based, but it was the last time we saw it, and then it was sort of a steady decline. Let's finish the 11. I think we all probably have the same striker then, based on that.
Yeah.
Another very, very, very talented player.
Van Persie for me, 100%.
My last name, literally the last name I wrote down, it was more just kind of, I'll throw it in, is Giroud. Just because I think he has to sort of have a mention, really. I mean, someone that, was always in the firing line. He wasn't, the things with Giroud, he suffered from the whole kind of like, he wasn't Henry, he wasn't an Elka. He wasn't Van Persie. You know, he wasn't Adebayor, even, you could argue, like, for how well he was for a couple of seasons. But yeah, I mean, we're leaving Aubameyang out, which is interesting based on his numbers, really, since he's been at Arsenal. I was tempted to go for Aubameyang as kind of like my lone striker, with Van Persie playing off of him. However, we do know with Aubameyang, and I think this is in the Arsenal fan base, Charles. I'm not sure what your personal opinion is on Aubameyang, but there's a lot of frustration amongst the Arsenal fan base, isn't it, in terms of what he offers apart from putting the ball in the net when he gets a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there is, but then I also look at that and think, well, look, you want a goal scorer, you want a striker, and he does that. That's what his job for, and it's not his fault that he can't hold the ball up. Maybe you got to work the team, set the team up a little bit better to play to his strengths. So I don't think we can really complain about since what he's done since he's come for us. And obviously, he's had a bad season this season; he's not lived up to the heights. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if he goes and bangs in 25 next season. So, his numbers have been great. I think Giroud, again, 100 goals for Arsenal. He absolutely deserves a mention. He's been criticised unfairly at times. I think even going on since he left Arsenal, he's won the Champions League, the Europa League. He's played a big role in those 2 wins as well, with the goals he scored getting Chelsea there, which pains me to say. But he's just a top level player, Olivier Giroud, and his career speaks for itself. World Cup winner. I mean, but yeah, Van Persie.
Yeah,
just for those. I mean, such a talented player, but the last couple of seasons, especially the last season before he left, was just, he was just untouchable in terms of anyone else in England. He was that good.
And I think almost rivaling Thierry Henry with respect to a goals compilation. If you did the top 20 goals Robin Van Persie scored for Arsenal, my word, would there be some special goals? So a special footballer. You mentioned Adebayor there as well, who not on that level, but was unplayable at times. A player I think probably underachieved in his career. He'd always start well at clubs and then sort of go off the boil. But fantastic striker at his day.
He was great, and he was great in that 07-08 season. But again, I'll always remember that Birmingham game, 2-1 up, and he goes through and just had to square it to Bentner to make it 3-1. Didn't, went alone, missed, and I always remember.
It was a very young squad, wasn't it, that 07-08? I think you're right. If we go ahead and win that game 2-1, we win the title. But you look across that team, even Adebayor himself would have been, 22, 23 at the time. They're just a young team.
We're like alluding to this game heavily, and you've got to say that Eduardo is probably one of the most what-if players in this Emirates era. I mean, obviously incredibly sad what happened that day, and that run that he went on, he was, it wasn't a massive amount of time, but for about 5-6 months, I don't think I've seen a more ice-cold finisher at the Emirates, to be honest. I mean, it was almost like this we've cracked it here, and then that obviously, excuse the pun, that obviously happened, but no, yeah, it's no, that's good. I'm happy with that.
Solid team, definitely.
Do you want to do the honours, Tim? Read out the 11.
Yeah, so we've gone for, of course, so long ago now, isn't it? We went for Czech, I think, just Czech. Sanya was an easy one. Then we went for Mertesacker, Koscielny with Monreal at left back. We've gone for a mixture, really, in terms of positional play, but with Ramsey, Fabregas, and Cazorla in a 3. We should have milked Cazorla. That's a podcast for another day. And then we've also gone for Walcott on the right, Alexis on the left, with Van Persie heading up top. So just to wrap up, Charles, on HTO, we like to do a bit of fun with our guests. We've got a counter-attack challenge. Tom's going to start us off. Quickest, fastest possible answer, please, for the questions.
We'll say quickest. We'll see how my reception's doing and my internet's been on the blink. But first Arsenal game you ever went to?
Arsenal Sheffield Wednesday 1989, about December, in the title winning season.
Your favourite ever Arsenal player?
Dennis Bergkamp.
Might mean this one's redundant. Henry or Bergkamp?
Bergkamp.
First Arsenal player to score a hat-trick at the Emirates, Charles.
More of a quiz question, this.
Oh my God. First Arsenal player to score a hat-trick at the Emirates. Was it Henry?
One more guess.
Oh God, this is going to bug me. I can't believe I'm not going to get this.
It's very hard, to be fair.
Carlos Vela?
It's a random one.
Oh, go on, tell me. That's going to really bug me. What was it?
Jay Simpson against Cardiff.
Jay Simpson against Cardiff. That was the what game was that? That was a Youth Cup game, wasn't it?
I think it was a Carling Cup game, or whatever it used to be called.
Was it? He scored a hat-trick in a League Cup.
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Yeah.
We're losing the pace. We're losing the pace of the counter attack. Where were you 89 in May?
I was in a caravan with my friend's parents, my friend who's all Liverpool fans on holiday with them.
Amazing. For the Gaza goal against Scotland in '96, I was camping in the tiniest room of about 40 people watching this tiny TV in Norfolk, and it's brilliant. Sorry.
Can I just go down? I know it's going to, but when that goal went in, when Mickey Thomas scored that goal, I did so much damage to that caravan as an 8-year-old that they had to take money off when they sold it.
Brilliant.
Well, I'm going to make you feel really old now, guys. I was born a month after the title win in '89. So last but not least, always part of the furniture at HTO. Charles, you've got 3 dinner guests come round for a takeaway and some beers. Arsenal related, dead or alive. Who are you inviting round?
Oh my word. Arsene Wenger, 100%. Anders Limpar.
Oh, nice.
Just because I absolutely adored him and I cried when he left. And I've got to be Dennis Bergkamp just because it's Dennis Bergkamp and I've got to be in his presence.
So that's quite a sophisticated evening of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get debauchery. We'll have Ray's coming round, the righties there, but
Yeah.
there's been lots of shouts for Maradona as well, because normally we do it across the, anyone from football.
Maradona would be fun, definitely.
I don't think those 3 will be takeaway and beers, though, do you, Tom?
No, exactly. I mean, they would do takeaway, but Wenger would order the salad and the water and things like that. Whereas if Ray was round, it'd be doner kebabs.
I don't think Anders would. Maybe.
No, true.
Actually, Bergkamp, to be fair, you talk to other people. You talk to, like you say, Ray Parlour, people like that about Dennis Bergkamp. He could hang with the best of them.
It was just a great era, though, wasn't it? That '90s era. Perfect. That was awesome, Charles. Really appreciate that.
No problems.